leadership. It's about knowing the way, going the way, and showing the way. At least that's what they say. Now, practicing leadership can be a different ball game altogether. Tough times really test the character of the leaders. In a situation as what the economy faces now, not only in Sri Lanka but also worldwide, how can you be a good leader? What is the exact role of a corporate leader, such as a chairman or a director? This will be our focus today on Bisnomics, in your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. I'm Tharindra Amarasekara, and joining me for this discussion is the chairman of Sri Lanka Institute of Directors, Mr. Rasakantha Rasia. Mr. Rasia, welcome to Bisnomics.
Thank you. Thank you for calling me. Thank you for inviting me. A pleasure.
Mr. Rasia, now let's talk about a very basic role, not a basic but a very commonly heard of role of an organization who is a chairman. And then we also hear this term CEO, Chief Executive Officer. Now, I sincerely hope that we have some current and budding chairman and CEOs of companies watching this show right now. How do these two roles differ and what are they expected to do? Let's start with that.
Yes. So, let's start with the chairman. Chairman is the person who leads from the boardroom. He is responsible to make decisions on and make directions, as well as, what shall I say, on strategies, right. So, he is totally responsible to run the board, right. And how does he run the board? By following proper procedures, right. And what are the procedures? Let's start at the beginning. He should make sure the board meetings are held properly. And how do you have it properly? You start with the agenda. He should make sure agenda are in place, all the items of subject matter that has to be discussed are clearly enlightened or shown on the agenda. So, the person who reading the agenda will know, oh, these are the matters they are going to take it up. The second thing is, he must send the agenda in time, because all the other directors, some are working directors, some are non-executive directors, and so on and so forth. So, they should get the agenda and the time of the meeting well in time and date, well in time, so that they are ready and be prepared to come for the meeting. Third is the documents, the information contained in documents or whatever form are also sent with the agenda. So, if they are going to take a subject, they know this subject is taking place and these are the supporting evidence, supporting data, supporting information, so that the person can come well prepared. Right. Sometimes when you read these documents, there may be some of the questions may be quite a few. So, you do not wait for the board meeting, because the board meeting is held, if it is asked at the spur of the moment, you might not get the answer. Then what happens is gets deferred. So, sometimes even I, and when I am at the board meeting, I send the question well in time to the parties concerned, so that they come well prepared for the board meeting. Right. Now, we are
not to just come there and check what's in the agenda.
Oh, yeah, I will come to that. That is a sad part. I will come to that separately. Right. Now, we come to the board meeting per se. Right. The board meeting starts on. Chairman must make sure the board meeting starts on time, and the first item on the agenda is to clear the recordings of the previous meeting, because you must keep in mind the minutes. Minutes are legal documents. So, you have to be sure that they are recorded properly. So, all the members of the board who were there last time accept it, and somebody proposes, somebody seconded it. That is the first part that is done. So, that is kept as a record for the future. Then the item starts. Now, one by one it starts, the item on the agenda. Now, what happens is, chairman must be fair. He must give everybody an equal chance to speak. Some are quiet, some are very vociferous. So, you must not allow the vociferous person to dominate and allow the quiet fellow to not give a chance. So, you must make sure there is a clear, but shall I say, open, frank discussion, so that everybody can express their views.
Mr. Rasia, I just want to interject one thing there. This is a very famous tradition, I believe, followed among the Red Indians, where they have this talking stick. When the tribal meeting is there, the talking sticks goes from hand to hand, and no matter how vociferous, dominating or timid you may be, when the stick is in hand is when you will talk, and only then you will talk. So, as you correctly said, have equal opportunity for all board members.
Yes, okay. So, and then of course, it comes to, of course, everybody says yes, but there may be people who dissent. So, you have to give a fair hearing and see why they are dissenting, and if it's justifiable, you accept it, or you can get other who is proposing it to give the answers, so that there can be unanimity. The whole idea of a meeting is to not to have separation, divisions, but to have unanimity. But if somebody is very strong or very convinced that that's the way he wants to go, so be it. But you always keep unanimity. That is important. So that fairness is there, unanimity is there, then a decision is made, right? Then that decision is recorded, and that's the way the meeting goes, and the meeting is over. After the meeting, chairman must make sure all the meeting items are properly recorded, right, and circulated quickly to the directors to see whether they are right, there are anything that they have got to do, because sometimes the secretaries also take a long time to respond or send the minutes. Then the directors who are not working, they forget about it. Directors who are working are busy with other work. Then they have forgotten all what was discussed.
Correct.
So it's very
only discussion and no follow up.
no follow up.
Okay.
So chairman must make sure that the secretary circulate the minutes quickly, and they are brought back separately.
And if we now come to the CEO's role,
Yes.
what does he do?
Now I am about to come to that.
Yes.
Abandonment, right. So that is what is done. So the minutes are recorded, then that meeting is over. That is the chairman's fundamental role, because he is running the board.
Correct.
Right.
A
Now we
functioning board.
functioning board. The CEO, now his job is to run the company, right. So he is also equally responsible, but he gets directions from the board. So he is also board member, or he is at the board meeting. He knows what are the decisions that are taken, and then he will go down the line and make sure that is implemented. There will be again down the line, there will be diverse views, different opinion, but that's bad luck. But the board has decided you have to implement it. That's the responsibility of the CEO. Now, one of the things that we are talking about is, why can't these two people be together? Why can't one be the same, one and CEO and the chairman be the same? Now, there is a problem, because there are two roles. One is running the board, one is running the company. So then one controls the other.
Correct.
But if both are together, then there is no control.
One balances the other.
Right.
Ms. Rasia, let's talk about a very commonly heard term, non-executive directors, NED.
Yes.
Some say independent non-executive directors.
Yes.
What is their role?
Right. Now, directors are subdivided into two: executive, the directors who are working, and others are non-direct. What shall I say? Other set of directors can be, as you call, non-executive. They are not working. A further subdivision is non-executive. Of the non-executive directors, some are independent. That means they have absolutely no connection with the company. They don't have shares, they are not ex-employees over 2 years. So the stock exchange in Sri Lanka defines the criteria to be a independent non-executive director.
And I believe all non-executive directors have to be independent, isn't it?
Obviously, they have to be independent.
Yes.
So that is the clear demarcation between executives and non-executives.
You said they can't have been an employee over the last 2 years.
2 years. That's, if I remember right,
Okay.
that's after 2 years they can
Because
become.
countries like UK, I believe, stipulate it has to be more than 5 years
Yes.
sometimes.
So
Country to country,
I can't
yes.
tell you offhand, but there are certain criteria they have to meet to become independent non-executive directors.
Understood.
That's right. Fine. Now, what is the role they play? They bring very useful value to the organization. Right. Now, if the chairman is sharp and the board is sharp, they pick not, sometimes they say that you pick your golf partners. It's not the golf partner. You pick the person who can contribute or supplement your existing board directors. For example, marketing, right? If you have a exceptionally good marketing person, you can bring him as a marketing director who will supplement the existing marketing director that we have. Correct. Right. And also, not only marketing, in the industry that you are working. So, if it's a FMCG company, it's good to have a marketing director who is very conversant with FMCG matters, so that his contribution will be that much better. Right. Then of course, you are talking about how many directors, non-executive. It all varies from company to company. The bigger the company, more non-executive directors are there. Lesser smaller the company, you don't need to have so many non-director executives.
So, who picks these non-executive directors? Is it up to the current chairman and the director board, or is it the shareholders who bring them on board? Who picks them?
Both. Shareholders also can suggest, but normally it's the board of directors who pick them, because they know these are the areas that we need valuable or additional contribution. Then in fact, not only that, sometimes they even pick up directors from overseas, right, and they come down, and of course, thanks to this pandemic, now this flying down business is going off. You can come on webinars or Zoom or whatever you may call it. So, you also have sometimes, if it is necessary, you may have a foreign director also coming into the scene to help in the program.
And the shareholders need to ratify that appointment?
Oh yes, all initial appointments are can be done in a case of during the year, but by end of the year the shareholders must ratify all the new directors, and also every 2 to 3 years the director retire by rotation.
Okay.
So that in case they are not happy with somebody, which is not the case usually, they can be terminated and you bring in new director. Normally they get ratified to continue again.
Now, we hear this term about corporate governance.
Yes.
And in various cases, both from a government perspective, private sector perspective, stock market related matters, we hear this word corporate governance.
Yes.
And I believe, Mr. Rasia, you and I both know some of the listed companies have not held a AGM for few years now.
Yes.
Right? So, there are clear issues with that. But what exactly is corporate governance, and what are some of the best practices that you can share with our audience today?
Right. Okay. Just to explain that better for the audience to understand, I'll go back a little history. Up to the end of last century, certain things were not done, or something that what is done today will never be done, right? They didn't even know how to do it. But turn of the century, it was gradually worsening. Turn of the century, things changed dramatically. There was a big company in the US called WorldCom. They were apparently doing very well, and then overnight they crashed.
Right? Followed by Enron.
Followed by Enron, you are right, that is right. So, it was followed by, so then what happened, it shook the whole world, and then we Asians were not bad. There was an Indian company called Satyam's brothers who were telling they also had a big fraud. So, this
197% overstatement of profits.
Exactly, you also well versed, very good, right. So, thank you for that. And so, because of that, then all the regulators sprung into action, and unfortunately both Enron and WorldCom, even the auditors were involved in it. So, Arthur Andersen also dropped off because they were the top 5 at that time. Now, we talk of only top 4 auditors, right. With that, all the regulators swiftly moved into action. So, they brought rules and regulations. Professional bodies like Chartered Accountancy Firm brought it. In Sri Lanka, SEC brought regulation. They are continuously changing. Stock exchange regulation. So, there are so many regulations that are come to do what is called corporate governance. What is corporate governance? It is well a big term, but I would say it is a very simple term. Turn it the other way around. Corporate governance is governing the corporate. Make it simple, running the company. That is all. So, how do you run the company? Doing the right thing the correct way. To give an illustrated cricket example, there was a ball tampering incident in Australia. The captain was involved, right, and it became a scandal. So, he apologized, which is the correct thing, but it is not enough. Nobody knew he apologized, so nobody saw him. So, because the incident came on TV, he himself came on TV and apologized in public for millions of people to see. So, he did the correct thing by apologizing, but he did the right thing also by coming on TV. So, this is all what corporation means. There is nothing, the terminology is very big. So long as you do the correct thing the right way, follow the rules and regulations which are now mandatory, then the concept of corporate governance becomes very simple.
And it's also about keeping the shareholder interest at heart when you are doing things, isn't it? Because invariably directors will have more power than the shareholders. Even if you take a Sri Lankan stock exchange listed company,
yes,
it's not the shareholders who are there inside out every day. No,
correct.
Yeah, so it's the directors who are there.
Yes.
So they have power. So to make sure that the power is not used in a way that is detrimental to the shareholders, am I correct?
Correct.
That's what the intention of corporate governance is.
Yeah, because they are legally what they say that directors have fiduciary duties in discharging their duties. So they are really representatives of the shareholders. On behalf of the shareholders, they are doing their best to run the company. So therefore, they must do their best, because if they don't do their best, or if they don't do what the reasonable and prudent, the legal jargon is, if you don't do what a legal and a prudent director would have done, and if there is a serious problem, then the director is personally responsible. Understood. I want to make a small correction of what you said. Yes, in Sri Lanka, there are issues of certain companies not having their regular shareholder meeting, but stock exchange now is very strict. If you don't have, you get blacklisted and you go to the different board. So therefore, they are very strict about this shareholder meeting.
But step in the right direction indeed. We are going to continue this discussion in more detail, Mr. Rasia.
Yeah. Yes.
Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is Bisnomics. Welcome back after the break. I'm Tharundu Amarasekara and we are in conversation with Mr. Rasakantha Rasia regarding corporate boards leadership and how to have a proper leadership coming from directors and the chairman. Mr. Rasia, now let's talk about the skills needed. Long time back, maybe based on a certain heritage or a certain tradition, people might get appointed into the director board. But today, I believe directors of today needs a far more wide-ranging skill set to be a good director. In your perspective, as the chairman of the Sri Lanka Institute of Directors, tell us, what skills do the directors of today need to steer their organization in the right direction?
Right. First and foremost, the directors must understand that they are responsible to run the company as per the company law section 184. So, there is no escaping of failing in their duties in failing to run the company. So, in order to run the company, as I mentioned earlier, is a team. A team is required, starting with the chairman and a specialist for each of the areas, right? You have marketing, you have finance, you have legal, HR and so on and so forth. They are a different team, right? And the question arises, do we need board members for all these positions? It all depends on the size of the company. So, if the company is small, then you have a smaller number of directors, but if the company is large, then you have a bigger set of directors. And also, you have to make a call what type of business you are in. If you are doing trading business, you don't need a what you call production director. So, that also is a factor. Then, as I told you earlier, you have a set of directors who are working in the company, who are conversant with the procedures and practices and decision making. Wherever they feel deficient, wherever they feel they can add on some people, they get outside directors. They come as I told you, non-executive directors. And there again, when you appoint and if there are vacancy for 3, you don't appoint 3 finance directors. You appoint 1 finance, 1. In fact, one of the public companies, when they appoint somebody, they make sure the ability skills are diversified. So, it will be 1 finance director, 1 marketing director, 1 may be a legal director and so on so forth. So, that the diversity of the skill is well spread. So, it will be very useful when the company makes decisions, and when they have to make hard decisions, the non-executive directors also play a role in helping the whole group to make a final decision.
Understood. Let us talk about directors' remuneration.
Yes.
Now, much debated topic. On what basis does the directors' remuneration get decided, and in Sri Lanka, are we following the right basis for deciding on the directors' remuneration?
Right. Now, I can't conclusively say that all companies are following the rules and regulation and being fair, that I must be very fair, but I am talking on behalf of the majority of public quoted companies. There is a lot of animosity saying that directors are earning so much. One, you look at the amount that the directors earn by the amount by itself. You have to see by the total size of the company.
As a percentage.
As a percentage, right. And also we have to keep in mind, if the directors earn more, the company obviously must earn more, then the shareholders get more, and even the government get more because of the taxation that is involved, right. Then the next important question is, these directors are not appointed because you know somebody or something like that. Now, the company law stipulates that you have a nomination committee, and that nomination committee, mind you, is headed by a independent non-executive director. Independent, I am using the word independent because they have that independent director has nothing to do with the company. So, he makes a call as to how much should these directors be paid. Right. He also can't decide I am going to pay so much, I am going to pay that.
Ms. Rasia, just to clarify, so you have the nominations committee that will decide who is given to the shareholders for voting, and also there is a remunerations committee, isn't
yes,
it?
Yes.
And which is headed by a non-executive director.
Exactly.
Through which it gets decided how much is good.
Yeah. So, then the next stage it goes to the remuneration committee. They will decide how much is to be paid, and that is also they don't say okay we pay you so much, no way. They decide on a KPI. They say you achieve these targets, then only you get so much, and these targets are set at the beginning of the period in consultation with the director concerned. So, you say you had a top line growth of so much, bottom line growth of so much, and so much on stocks, so much on data. Those figures are agreed upon at the beginning of the period. So, end of the period, the director also knows what he has performed. So, there is no disparity, oh, he didn't like my face, he didn't want, he wanted a favor, I didn't do, that's why, that doesn't arise. So, therefore, the concept of payment of or rather remuneration of a director is very well defined and done in a proper way. So, we can't say that they are paid arbitrarily or the figure is too high or whatever.
Understood.
Right.
So, if someone tries to manipulate the numbers, because the downside of KPIs, Mr. Rasaya, as we all know, is the numbers can sometimes be dressed up. It happens.
Right.
It happens. So, if by chance, if someone has done like that, you mentioned about the nominations committee, remunerations committee, and this is where the audit committee will come into play, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. You have given me the lead. I was about to say the same thing. There is audit committee and there is also an external auditor who is an independent person nominated by the shareholders. So, the auditor, external auditor is a representative of the shareholders. So, he will do a thorough audit and they also are guided by certain principles, certain procedures, certain facts and figures that they have to see, and they audit the figures and then they certify and say, look, this is in order. So, then only the figure is. So, then question of manipulation is, I would say, I would not say eliminated, is very, very minimal.
Understood.
And in today's context, the manipulation, there is a limit to what you can manipulate, because its very transactions are very, very transparent.
Ms. Rasaya, let us talk about transparency, because a rallying cry sometimes we hear is that boards are not transparent. We do not know what is really going on. How do you correct that?
Okay. Again, I will go to the basics. What is transparency? Being open, right. So, when a director is appointed, even before he is appointed, they do a thorough background check about it. In the same, whether he is one, of course, is integrity and honesty, but leaving that aside, what are his connection with other companies. So, then when the director is appointed, he makes an open declaration saying, I am involved in this company as a shareholder, I am involved in this company as a director. So, then the transparency part is to some extent over. And when the board discusses the matter where this director is involved, he obviously will be declaring his interest and will have to keep. I know in some boards, even the director gets up and walks off the meeting.
So, if there are cross directorships in some
instances. Exactly. So, that the other directors can independently make a firm decision. So, that is what basically a transparency is there. And on top of it, as you say, if you want some example, in all the transactions there must be transparency. Say if you are buying something, you do not buy something from somebody known or because he is a good pal of yours. No, you call for quotation, 3 quotations, right, and decide which is the best price. Not only price, I would say, even whether they are dependable on delivery, they are dependable on quality. Take another one, KPI of staff. Staff is your biggest asset. So, there again there must be transparency, right. So, when just as much as the directors KPIs are set at the beginning of the year, the KPIs of the staff also are set during the year, at the beginning of the year. So, at the end of the year, staff also knows that, look, I was asked to do this, right, I have achieved this. So, I may not get a good increment or a bonus or whatever you may call, or I have done very well, more than expectation, I will get better than what. So, then there is open, clear transactions. So, there is no misunderstanding.
Correct. Right. Ms. Rasaya, during these challenging times, I mean, we are living in unprecedented times. You and I both can agree on that. How important is board level leadership during these tough times? What are your thoughts on that?
Right. This is where actually they say when a plane is, one engine is on fire, the skill of the captain comes when he lands. Same thing when a ship is on fire.
Analogy.
Yeah, good ship is on fire. That's the time the chief person, I don't know whatever you call it, the captain of the ship makes a call. So, there again, the same way when a company is in difficult, like the pandemic that we are going through, right, you have to be very, very sharp and clear. Hard decisions have to be taken, right. So, that is what you have to do.
Now, let us talk about proper training for directors.
Yes.
Ms. Rasaya, are there proper institutions that are focused on training directors? If not, what can be done regarding this?
You want to be a doctor, you go to the medical college, you go to the law college to do law, you go to the Institute of Chartered Accountants, you have a defined period of time where you are trained to be a professional. Unfortunately, in Sri Lanka, you do not have something like that. But I must say there are private bodies that are come. We are one of the 4 leaders instead of directors, where we train directors, right. Now, there is an interesting part. Now, we have training 2 sessions, 2 for the whole year, 8 days in the first, right, 2 days per session, 4 modules in the session, and the directors come. For very popular program, the people who have come are very, very happy. In fact, the director of tobacco company also came, and he was very happy and very impressed with the program that we run. But when you speak to some of the directors, they said, oh, we love to come for the program, we are very busy, we can't come.
A common excuse.
Common excuse, that pity. Or even if they come, they miss sessions. Or even if they are not missing session, in between they take the telephone call and run out because there is an urgent call on the mobile phone. So the question asked is, what happens if that person is sick? What will happen? Company will come to a grinding halt. No. So when we were young, my boss used to tell me, a busy man is a man who has all the time in the world. That was his definition. 12 hours non-stop he will work. And he said, my chap, I go to sleep very happy only when I finish all that should be done has been completed. And mind you, with all his responsibilities and duties, he will never miss a staff wedding. He will never miss when a person, staff member's relative has died, he will be there at the funeral. So that is the type of people we had at that time. They will never say we are busy and therefore we won't come. But unfortunately, this is the case. But anyway, it's improving. And we also, at the end of it, we give them accreditation, a certificate, which they can use. But we are also trying to link up and follow with what the other countries are doing, say Malaysia, Singapore. They have two courses. One, you follow the course, you get a certificate. One, you follow the course and sit for the exam at the end of it. And if you pass and get past the interview, then you are given a certificate.
Ms. Rasia, are you saying that unfortunately we have a culture where sometimes the top leadership of organizations are not really keen to continuously develop themselves? Is that a problem? Not among all companies, but do we see that as a problem?
No, I wouldn't say that they don't want to develop. They want to develop, but the problem is they don't have the time. They say we have so much of work, so many things to do. If I am not here today, this is going to happen, and therefore they won't have time. So therefore they don't want to develop.
And what is your answer to somebody who says that?
No, I mean, as I told you, I'll tell the same thing. No, if you are a busy man, he's a man who has all the time in the world. Simple as that.
I like how you put it across.
Yes.
Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is Bisnomics. Welcome back to Bisnomics. Our focus today is about corporate board level leadership and what can be done to have a better generation, a better breed of corporate leaders in Sri Lanka. And we are in conversation with Mr. Rasakantha Rasia, who is the chairman of Sri Lanka Institute of Directors. Mr. Rasia, let's talk about the organization you represent, Sri Lanka Institute of Directors. Tell us more about it and what is actually being done to create a better generation of corporate leaders in this country.
Anyway, for the benefit of the viewer, just a brief history of our organization. We started about 25 years ago, very humble, simple beginning as a subsidiary offshoot of Chamber of Commerce. Since then, we have developed. We have formed our own office, formed our own secretariat. Now we are well settled at the Cinnamon Grand Hotel, right? That is where the office is with a fully fledged secretariat. Now we try to propagate corporate governance. Earlier, I explained what corporate governance is all about, so I won't repeat it. So how do we do that? We have a few standard ways or appropriate ways of doing it. We have seminars or webinars, right? Unfortunately, when you have seminars like a lecture, it becomes a bore. People tend to sit for 45-50 minutes, and when you ask a question, they don't ask. So now we have slightly changed the strategy. We have a conference, 4 persons talking, a dialogue with a moderator.
More discussion.
It's a more discussion panel. So they talk for 40 minutes, they discuss. So the audience also is listening. Moderator is also posing questions. So it becomes very lively. At the end of it, the audience also entitled to ask questions. So this we have found it very popular. We have chosen topics by well conversant people, well experienced people, and we have also certain type of specialized program, CEOs forum, the CFOs forum, individual owners forum. These are very popular, where the people who are involved in similar aspects, they come for these meetings. So and when you have these conference type of programs with the moderator, they get interested and then they are participating. That's number one. Second is we do the same thing in the outstation. We don't forget the outstation. Unfortunately, last year we could not go because of the health regulation. But before that, we covered. We covered, say, from Mathura to Jaffna, from Trincomalee to Puttam, Chilau, and Candy Hills. So we travel. Our team goes out. We are supported fortunately by the chambers of those locations. So, we have seminars, and of course, we have a sponsor also. With that way we propagate corporate governance and board leadership programs in the outstation. Third is, we have a very popular program which I mentioned to you earlier, is called the board leadership program. We have it twice a year. There are 8 modules, and there are 4 into 8 is 32 modules, and they are held at different 2 days at a session, 2 days at a time, 4 modules are held. So, then people come for that, and that is very, very popular. We have all experienced panel of lecturers, and they all come. Then also it has become so popular, there are now companies asking us to come and do specifically for them tailor-made. So, which we are doing, and so much so it has spread so much, even now we have got an invitation from Maldives.
Excellent.
To come and propagate and do whatever we are doing, because they have heard the word of mouth has gone. So, those are the things that we are doing.
And all this is to enhance the capacities of the leadership of Sri Lankan corporate boards. I think that's some fantastic work there, Mr. Rasaya. Let's get to a topic that is very heavily debated, which is, I think, quite pertinent, and with regard to diversity, especially gender diversity. A rallying comment we hear from so many parts of the world, not only Sri Lanka, is that there is not enough women representation at the board level and that it's not being encouraged, etc. What are your comments on this from a global perspective and also Sri Lankan perspective?
Now, the gender diversity is like a hot topic of the day.
Correct.
It is gathering, it started and it has gathered momentum not only in Sri Lanka, in abroad also, everywhere.
For so many years?
For so many years. Now, the other day I was told a Pricewaterhouse in the Sydney had 46% of the new partners were ladies. Right. So, we are not left behind. We also have started, and our institute also have a now separate section for the ladies for what you call forum. It's led by one of our senior vice chairmen, chairperson actually, is a lady, Arushina Naikara. She is heading the unit. So, we have formed that, and we have had already seminars for the ladies, and we are also hoping to have a program for the lady directors program. And again, thanks and with combination with IFC and the Australian High Commission, we also have what is called Women Directors Forum for with international connections. So, we gave an opportunity to our lady member directors to participate. Right, and they had certain minimum criteria. Their top line must have certain amount, they must have been a director for certain amount period. With all that, we were able to find about 12 of them. They become members of the WC program.
So, Mr. Rasaya, I understand that Sri Lanka Institute of Directors are doing quite a lot in terms of encouraging this diversity. For the benefit of the viewers, can you explain to us what does it really mean to have a gender diverse board, and why is it a topic even at all? I mean, shouldn't it be a case where those who are talented get a chance to be in the board, or are we saying no, despite that women are hitting a glass ceiling and not getting the chance to be in the corporate boards? Is that the real problem here?
No, I will tell you, charity begins at home. So, in fact, we have changed our constitution to make 25% of our council members of 12 should be ladies. So, we have started it doing it at home. Then the question is, in the and the other thing, our research has shown that more than 55% of the educated people are women, but the employed part of the lot is only 40%. So, that is where the gender diversity came, and this is obviously detected by IFC. They give a lot of support and promotion, and because the in the good old days, like our parents, the mothers never went to work. They were they went house, looking after the house and children. So, things are differed now because cost of living has gone up. Ladies have become also forthright. Ladies have become educated, and naturally they want to get into positions. And of course, the one drawback is motherhood. They say, okay, when a child comes, the lady, yes, that is true, that we have to accept certain norms.
But here, the ones in the corporate sector are also not getting a chance to get into the boards.
No, that's not true. Now, there is a, what shall I say, unwritten understanding that certain numbers of the members should be board. I know one big corporate, they insist that one member every year should come from the ladies sector. Even the stock exchange and corporate, they are adjusting their rules. They are looking at recommending that a certain percentage of the board should be ladies. So, it's to make it compulsory. So, that way you make it a reality. So, we have a lot of support on that score.
Now, you are someone who is qualified, you have climbed the professional and commercial ladder, and also you have been a part of so many different sports, and you have managed and headed so many different cricket clubs, etc. How do you achieve all this? How do you balance the time for all this? And what advice do you have to any director, any leader, or maybe a young student who plans to and aspires to be a director or chairman one day? How do you manage and balance all these things together? I know you always say a busy man is someone with a lot of time, but Mr. Rasaya, I expect more insight, especially from your own illustrious career as well.
No, in my case, I had a simple rule, one at a time. If I am studying, I studied. If I am playing, I played. I never try to mix the two. That is a fundamental rule that I always followed even to this day. Secondly, is when I do lead sports, at the end of the day, I see why I won or why I lost. So, this I have applied to my life also. What did I do today? What more I could have done? What are the mistakes I have made? What should I not do again in the future tomorrow? So, third is teamwork. When you play, you can't win individually. You had to win. If your team has to win, all have to win. So, then you play as a team. So, this again helps you in your normal work, because your work, you are a director, you can't do anything alone, you need the support and cooperation of all. Here I must make a special mention, a word of thanks to my parents, of course, to the school I went to St. Joseph's College, right, and the teachers. At that time the teachers were so committed, they are so dedicated, they will teach till you fully understand. So, the question of going to private tuition and things like that never arose. Right. So, that was a big boost for us. And then of course, my uni days, the 2 exams are well spaced out, right, the 2 major exams. So, the in between I did my sports. There is ample financial support, ample opportunity, ample facilities always available. So, I made the maximum use of it to achieve what I have achieved. So, naturally I am proud and happy. So, bottom line is do one at a time and focus whatever you are doing at that time.
And what are the common mistakes you see directors in organizations doing today, which you think they should stop?
Now,
from your experience,
I wouldn't pinpoint in a particular way,
yes,
but if at all the mistakes take place, it's lot of lack of application. They don't focus enough, study the subject thoroughly, study it in depth, and then make a call. They are always in a rush to make a decision, or they have no time, as you say, they have no time. I mean, sometimes I feel sorry, which I had to pull up some other directors. They come for the meeting and then open up the files. You know, that means they have not done their homework. So, they are not fair by themselves, they are not fair by the organization. So, that type of issues are the cause of the failures of directors. But all in all, in Sri Lanka, I must say the companies have done well. One issue I would say is pandemic, right? How it is not like a bomb which has come and gone, and then situation becomes normal. Here we are fighting against the unknown or unseen enemy, and we have been resilient. Our directors who are in charge have been resilient, and they have fought their way through. Some companies are doing so well, because here the problem is threefold. Forward, you don't know the customers are in trouble. At home also you are in trouble, because the company is having a problem and the staff is also having a problem. When you go backward integration, you have the suppliers also having a problem. So, how do you balance it? Right? But there have been clever directors. Some directors took the simple option, reduce salaries, reduce staff. They were called benching, go to the department and reduce staff. Some said no, we will look after our staff. They paid their salaries. They paid salaries in advance. They looked after their health. So, that way they motivated the staff. They said, okay, come a better day, we will need. So, it all depends on how resilient, how thoughtful, how clever the director concerned is to handle a ship. Go back to the same thing example I showed. No, when the plane, one engine is on fire, how does the pilot land the plane? Simple as that.
Ms. Rasaya, in terms of succession planning,
yes.
Now, a lot of the time you have a successful chairman or a director, but with the demise of the director or chairman, sometimes we see the board struggling to really get to the next leader,
yeah.
which is a result of poor succession planning.
Yeah.
What tips would you like to share with any director or board member who is watching this show, how to get succession planning right?
Yeah. Succession planning is part and parcel of your activity. Just as much you have your KPIs, there must be a succession plan for each and every person, starting from the chairman downwards. If you don't plan, then you are in trouble. Either you are scared of your job with somebody going to take it over, right, but you are very unfair by the organization. So, succession planning is a must. Now, I have been working on a multinational company. Every year, every head of department has to submit a succession plan right down the line. next 3 levels, you have a plan in place, so that you not only have a plan in place in case that person leaves, or when there is a lateral opportunity for a promotion. Right. So, that gives an opportunity for everybody to make a plan. So, you can't say that we do not have a plan and we do not have a succession plan. That is not on, because that is part and parcel of today's corporate governance also, I would say.
Any final words with which you would like to end our discussion today? A word of advice for any young corporate leader who is watching this show.
My advice is, I would say, I worked locally, I worked internationally, I work with foreigners. I will say Sri Lankans are as good as anyone, if not better.
So, you say that with conviction?
Very conviction, and I have ample proof, ample proof. The only thing is the people who are not interacted with the foreigners have some form of, shall I say, complex, think they are better, right. They are better on one, because they have facilities and opportunity to do things better. We do not have.
Despite so that we are doing
Despite that we are doing. Look at the number of expatriates doing very well overseas. Given a chance, we have done well. So, I would say sky is the limit. I would tell all the youngsters, aspire, keep a goal in mind and try hard to achieve that. That is fundamental.
The role of corporate leaders in a modern economy. This was our focus today on Bisnomics. How can a corporate leader, a chairman, or maybe even a director do his duty right? How do you get gender diversity correct? And corporate governance, how do you get that going in a proper way with better transparency? All this and more was discussed quite in detail, for which I am indeed thankful to our special guest of today, Mr. Rasakantha Rasia. Mr. Rasia, it was a pleasure hosting you for this discussion, and thank you so much for all that leadership wisdom you shared with us. I sincerely hope that you will continue to share that knowledge on multiple different forums in Sri Lanka and also worldwide. Wish you and your institution all the very best. Good luck.
Thank you very much for inviting me and giving the chance to speak. Thank you very much.
And with that, we wrap up today's episode of Bisnomics. No matter what business you may be in, lead it well, have the right corporate governance, and set it going in the right direction. I will see you with the next episode. Have a profitable week ahead.